So, did you forgive yourselves? Someone else? If not, and you are telling yourselves, okay, we get it, we need to forgive, okay, but we don't feel like it right now. We have no emotional energy for this now. Let's hear the rest of your course and only then decide. If this is what you think and say, okay, then I forgive you. Do what works for you. But it's better that you understand that forgiving, pardoning ourselves and others is an important stage in intentional forgetting. It's not mandatory, but the aim is to help complete the second stage, dull the emotion associated with our memory. Slow down the memory-loaded emotional train. If, say, this train has several gears, then the aim is to lower the speed from fifth gear, 120 kilometers per hour, to third gear, 50 kilometers per hour. In other words, the pain is there, but more tolerable. Forgiveness promotes complete dulling of emotions. We can then act without the sense that the vehicle, meaning us, is falling apart. We are already in control of the situation. So after the second stage, the dulling of our emotions, we will continue to the third stage, where we will try to look at what happened, the memory we want to erase, in a manner that is more neutral, more objective. And our aim is to look at it from above, from a bird's eye view, and analyze the matter in a less emotional way, and most importantly, more positively. There are two forces pulling us in life, the good and the bad, and we try to find the balance between them. When we suffer, we hope and try to make things better. When we are in a good place, we hope this will last forever. But we are completely aware that this is quite unrealistic. In fact, nature created us limited in our ability to sustain joy and strong in our ability to endure pain. Have you noticed that joy can be felt for only a short time? The dopamine hormone that produces the joy chemicals is limited in duration and quantity. You know the feeling of the first bite of pizza or cake when you are hungry, or the first sip of a cold drink after walking for an hour in the heat? A divine joy, right? But what happens after 3 slices of pizza? What happens after we have drunk half a bottle? What happens after an hour of physical contact? It's enough, isn't it? Then we get this gloomy feeling. That's how it is. In every negative, we can find the positive, and the positive is never completely perfect. In fact, to understand comfort, we need to know what discomfort is. To understand happiness, we need to know what sadness is. And to understand satiation, we need to understand hunger. That's why many philosophers believe that aspiring to happiness is a false promise, because nothing can be perfect. There will always be something negative. Our lives are comprised of ups and downs. Take romantic love as an example. Most of us imagine love as a magical river flowing peacefully with birds chirping in the background. In reality, love is mostly a gushing river hitting the rocks, twisting around the bends, sometimes harsh, sometimes calm, sometimes dry, and sometimes overflowing. Love is rarely stable. Our work is not stable. Our health is mostly limited in its stability. In summary, our lives are fickle and chaotic. And as we've mentioned before, it's not because the world is against us, it's because the world is a gushing river. What do you do when you are caught in a strong current? You need to get out of it from time to time to regain your strength, to look at it from the banks, to rest. So what can we do when our thoughts, emotions, and mental state are in turmoil? You need to take a step back and look at the situation from a bird's eye view. And this is what I have done one autumn evening in 1976. And since we've been together for a few chapters already, and we are like a family, I want to share with you my personal story, a traumatic event that happened to me. I was in 5th grade, about 10 years old, and I was one of those nerds who took pottery classes. And one evening I walked home from pottery class through the woods, and yes, I know, doesn't sound too good, a child alone in the woods. To give you the short version, an older boy approached me and decided to pick on me. He took the beautiful pieces of clay artwork I made, smashed them on the ground, and then beat me up. I walked home, humiliated and upset. This event was painful physically and mentally. And I remember that while walking back, crying, I asked God to punish the kid. As fate would have it, or God, a week after the event, the child's father committed suicide. And I remember telling God, okay, I didn't really mean, that harsh. Anyhow, it turned out that the child's father was an alcoholic and had severe mental issues, and the boy was constantly abused by him. As the years went by, my perspective on this story changed, because looking back at the event, as an outsider, what really happened here? That child was not looking for me, Aaron Katz, to beat me up. I just happened to pass by, and he happened to be there, a child who had been abused and had accumulated toxicity and pain throughout his entire life. And he took his anger out on me. If it wasn't me, it would have been someone else. And if it had not happened then, it would have happened to somebody else later on, and maybe he would have killed somebody, I don't know. The more I thought about this, the better I understood that I was not the victim in this story. I was the angel. This is what I believed, and I still believe it. I am the angel, and God chose me to be there that day because He knew I could deal with this trauma. The years went by, and one day, 11 years ago, I participated in a conference and saw someone who looked familiar. It took me some time, but I realized, that's the boy from the woods who beat me up and broke my pottery. And I looked at him curiously, thinking, what do I feel right now? And I didn't feel anything. Not anger, not hate, not malicious joy. I was completely indifferent. This, in my view, was the ultimate proof that you can take a traumatic event and neutralize your feelings about it. Turn pain into complete indifference and forget it. Put the pain aside and forget intentionally. And note another interesting thing. The minute I decided to examine the event objectively from a bird's eye view, I was able to skip the first stage, the stage of forgiving, because I understood that he was the victim in this story, not me. There was nothing to forgive. He was the victim. And I need to say thank you. I call this chapter Finding the Kinder Egg in a Penthouse because it combines two things. The fact that in our essence we love positive surprises, and to find them, it is necessary to ascend several spiritual levels, see things in perspective from a distance, and only then can we find the positive surprise. Studies show that if you analyze personal past events from a distant perspective, this decreases anxiety, lends proportion, and lessens the need to remember the event, and accordingly, the number of times we will actually remember the event. If you manage to overcome the psychological difficulty in finding something positive in a negative event, you will find it. And you'd be surprised at what you can find. Now, I assume some of you wonder, seriously? Can you really find something positive in every negative thing? Can you find something positive in World War II? The answer is yes, a lot. And after publishing my book, 5 Gifts for the Mind, I received many emails, one of which was especially surprising. A psychologist working with Holocaust survivors who read my book decided to do something bold. He gathered his Holocaust survivors group in a semicircle and asked them something nobody dared to ask. Do you remember something good that happened in the concentration camp? Now, the initial reaction of the group members was not sympathetic, to put it mildly. What kind of question is that? What were you thinking? Gradually, the tension dissipated. There was a loud silence in the room, and then an elderly woman slowly and hesitantly raised her hand and said, "Yes, a Nazi female officer used to smuggle some bread to my cabin every evening. To this day, I don't know why, but for some reason she liked me. That bread saved my life." Some more moments passed, and another man raised his hand and began confessing. It happened in the winter. We walked in a line in the snow. It was freezing cold, and my shoes and clothes were torn. At some point, I collapsed from exhaustion, and I remember this as if it happened yesterday. The moment I collapsed, the Nazi soldier guarding us looked to the sides, making sure no one else noticed, and then said to my friends, "Carry him quickly, help him walk, because my orders are to shoot anyone who falls, and I don't want to kill him." A Nazi soldier saved my life. Not everyone has had such luck, but every one of us, with some effort, can find something positive in a negative event if we subjectively neutralize ourselves from the event and look at the situation from a distance. This is the third stage of intentional forgetting, isolating ourselves from the event and adding sugar to the bitterness, or Splenda, or honey, or steak. You get the idea. And if you did not manage to find something positive, just ask yourselves, what did this event contribute to my life? And how can my unfortunate event contribute to others? There is no shortage of examples of people who leveraged the bad things that happened to them to help others, raising awareness of a disease or a social problem, creating an artistic exhibition, expressing their experience to support others. Finding meaning in a bad experience can help.